Given the state of the Bribie Island breakthrough, what are your plans to manage the Bribie Island and Pumice-Stone Passage issues, and how will these be implemented?
Thank you so much. So I recently had the absolute privilege of going on one of the Pumice-Stone Passage eco cruises and seeing the Bribie Island breakthrough and the effects that that's having. We know that these are due to ex-tropical cyclone Seth, and we are going to see more extreme weather events with climate change. We're going to see less frequent but more intense cyclones. So firstly, we need to address the underlying issue with climate action, and we need to prepare our communities for more extreme weather events. We need to have climate resilient communities. We know that this particular breakthrough has caused increased tides in Golden Beach and on Diamond Head. It's required changes to the seawalls and upgrading of the seawalls. It's changed the sand quality, and it's also meant that there's been backflow through sewage, and we're having concerns about water quality. So it's not a simple answer. We certainly need to look obviously at the underlying causes of this disease again, but also get ready to manage what we can no longer avoid. And that is going to be working with local government and agencies so that we can get prepared for these weather events.
Thank you. So since getting elected in 2020, there's been a few things happened on the passage already. That breakthrough happened 6 weeks after I got elected, so that was a bit of an eye-opener. There were a lot of MPs in Caloundra who watched the Bribie Island get thinner and thinner and didn't actually do anything, and then 6 weeks after I got elected, the passage has reinvented itself, as a passage does about every 10 to 15 years. But prior to that, I was able to help out Coast Guard with getting some nav markers moved. They had a lot of difficulty getting moved for such a long time. The speed limit in the Pumice-Stone Passage used to be 40 knots. There are warships that can't do 40 knots, and the speed limit in the passage was 40. So we got that cut in half, and that also reduces boat wake, which also reduces some of the scalding on the interior edges. And then once we got that reduced, there was the idea that there would need to be a government presence to keep an eye on it. So 2 state budgets ago, I got a permanent MSQ officer assigned, and his or her office will be at the new Pelican Waters Marina, and he'll be keeping an eye on boaties and keeping an eye on boat safety, but also keeping an eye on the passage. There seems to be an idea about what's happened to the passage, that it can somehow be undone, or that we can fix it, fill it in, rock wall or geobag our way out of the current situation. I'm not sure that's the case. I have met with the people from TAP who have forgotten more about the Pumice-Stone Passage than most of us will ever know. I've heard their concerns. There are some points there that we agree on. There are some points there that we don't agree on, because I also have to take advice from other government agencies. But the idea that what can go on in the passage can be reversed by another layer of bureaucracy sitting on top of the existing layer, I think is a little faulty.
So our announcement about the Sunshine Coast Waterways Authority, perhaps it requires a little bit of explaining. So one of the reasons why nothing happens, and nothing has happened since the Bribie breakthrough in that beautiful waterway of ours, is because there are actually 17 different government departments or bodies that have some kind of authority over it. So if you literally find a discarded boat and you start pulling around, you'll get bumped from one to one to one to one, and nothing happens. A Waterways Authority is a legislative body that holds jurisdiction over all of those other departments. It's a one-stop shop that involves community involvement and council, and it's modelled on the one down in the Gold Coast. So this is not a brand new concept. It's what works in other parts of our country to protect our waterways. Let's replicate it and make the necessary changes so it fits here. Now, this Sunshine Coast Waterways Authority is the best, most proudest thing that so far I've been able to do for our community, because it was community-led. So we had the Coast Guard involved, we had TAP involved, we had the Pumice-Stone Passage management body group involved. We had John Groves, our local historian, involved. We had the developers of the Pelican Waters Marina involved. And despite the fact that, well, this is, you can make your comments, but when you've got all of those different people all saying the same thing, that is really powerful. And that is that something must be done because that is in a critical state. Now, it's not just about boating safety, it's about water quality, it's about the risk of our entire foreshore and the assets involved with that. Even council acknowledges that they're at risk. It is so critical that we protect this before it's too late, and the role of the Sunshine Coast Waterways Authority will be to bring in all of those people with local knowledge, bring in experts and decide what the ultimate outcome is. But I suspect, after all of this year of research, that will end up with a conclusion that the Bribie Island breakthrough must be stabilised at all costs in order to protect what we have here.